Hello, welcome back to Filmmaking Center. My name is Florence Almozini. I'm a programmer at large for Filmmaking Center and one of the main programmers for Rendez-Vous with French Cinema. I'm going to be joined with my colleague Maddie Whittle, who's down there on the screen, and Adeline Monzier, who's the US representative for Unifrance. And we're going to discuss this year's lineup for Rendez-Vous with French Cinema in its 27th edition. We have some recommendation, and we want everyone to be as excited as we are to discover what we have in mind for you this year with French cinema. This year we have a very, very strong and very interesting lineup with a lot of returning directors, as always, because we like to follow people's career, and we know the audience is also interested in this work. And we also have a lot of newcomers, new upcoming talents that hopefully will have a long and flourishing career. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about our personal favorites as well. Maybe to start the conversation with my colleagues, we wanted maybe to discuss the strength of French cinema in general and the relationship with American ties. It's very important to continue showing this work and to have American distributor who come and support us. We have 22 new films. Out of the 22 new films, we have 8 currently with US distribution. So it shows that there's a very strong interest in American distributors and American audience to follow this type of work. We've been lamenting for quite a while about the state of distribution for foreign films. But however, for French film, it seems to be much, much higher than for other like national cinema. And having 8 films with distribution, and I think there's a few more that could also get picked up because they're either, they have a lot of commercial potential. And it's not just like the art, but you also need to be able to sustain commercially. So it's always matters. Of course, it's always a pleasure to have returning filmmakers. A lot of them have been in Rendezvous before, or have been in new directors, the New York Film Festival. So we really love when they are able to come back, especially when they are able to come back in person, as this year it's a physical festival, as you're well aware. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about, of course, the great Claire Denis, about Mathieu Amalric, Arnaud Desplechin, Emmanuel Carrère, Jacques Audiard, all the big names of French cinema who are fairly well known in the US as well, and talk about how amazing it is to have all of them in this year's Rendezvous.
There's something especially exciting about having returning filmmakers, not just from past Rendezvous lineups, but from all of our programming, as you mentioned, directors, New York Film Festival. The last time Claire Denis was with us was for a New York Film Festival selection. The last time Arnaud Desplechin was with us was several years ago for an NYFF selection. And so it's really, there's something exciting about bringing these films together into conversation with these sort of established veterans, stars really of French cinema, just to check in on sort of what they're up to, what they're thinking about right now. I think we'll get into the opening night selection, Fire, in more detail, but I was especially moved looking at it as a sort of a continuation or an elaboration of some of the themes that Claire Denis was working through in Let the Sun Shine In, which also stars Juliette Binoche, who's the star of Fire, and screened in New York Film Festival a few years ago. And it's sort of, you can see it as of a piece with that earlier film, because they're both about women navigating tensions and pressures in their love lives and how those connect to their larger lives. And so in that sense, I think it can be really exciting to revisit a filmmaker and draw these connections. Another example would be Desplechin's new film, which I think in some oblique ways has a lot in common with Ismail's Ghost, which was his most recent film at the New York Film Festival. And so I imagine that there's going to be a lot of interest in these films, as well as the new François Ozon film. He was in last year's edition of Rendez-Vous with Summer of '85, which was a big crowd pleaser. And his new film, Everything Went Fine, is showing in this year's lineup. And so, as Florence mentioned, there's a whole roster of returning filmmakers, and I think some of the very strongest stuff in this year's lineup is new material from filmmakers that we already have a relationship with.
Mm-hmm. I know. I mean, Christophe Honoré is back too. He's also been in the New York Film Festival as well as Rendez-Vous. He's made so many different type of films that was for a younger audience. Some are like much more hardcore. This one is definitely very inspired in relationship with his work on the stage, and also a very timely film because it deals with the pandemics and the way COVID like affected cultures and live representation. But it's a Honoré film, so it's also very funny and very lively with an amazing cast from the Comédie Française. So it was also something that was really nice to have in the lineup.
And we can also mention Jacques Audiard's new film, Paris 13th District, which is a completely different film for Jacques Audiard. He worked on the script with Céline Sciamma, and you can feel Céline's touch in the film. And it's a black and white portrait of young Parisians in the 13th district in Paris, and discovering their sexuality, discovering their new ways of forming relationships. And it's very moving and exciting. So what I find interesting with Jacques Audiard is that with every film, he does something completely new and surprises us. And he seems to be able to explore every genre of films with the same maestria, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's nice because Jacques has always, I mean, often explored like male and masculinity in his films. And you can tell that the way he worked in this one, and it's probably with a collaboration with Céline, that it's a much more, a gentle, much more open, much more, female point of view. And it does show that even at this stage of his career, with all the work he's done before, he's able to renew himself and to attract also a different type of audience. Well, I'm sure like people are going to love the film, but it's quite different from the dark film that he had from like A Prophet or even Dipan, which was in Rendez-Vous a few years back. So it's something that I find really refreshing in the work that these filmmakers are providing. Are they able to renew themselves to still make a lot of films? Like some of these directors, like François Ozon, they make a film nearly every year, and now they can renew what they're doing and explore different angles and different stories and different way of working so easily. And I think it's a testimony of like in a way, it's the French film industry that they let people work at their own pace with financial support, but also with an open mind in like what people can do. We've talked, I mean, there's more returning filmmakers. I don't want to offend anyone, but that's not been mentioned here yet. But it would be also nice to mention all the new talents. It's the part and the biggest joy in working in programming. It's the discovery. It's finding a new films or a second-time filmmaker, someone who's really early stages of their career. And when you find their work and you're like get the energy and the interest in discovering something new, I find it like extremely rewarding, and it's something that always inspires me to continue doing this job. It's just exploring what younger people have to say, what they have to say about themselves, what they have to say about society, and how they perceive, their personal, the way they want to discuss what's happening in their life and how the future could be. So it would be interesting to see what you have to say about the newcomers.
Well, I'll start. I think that's a specificity of the French film industry to allow so many filmmakers to do their debut features and to trust upcoming filmmakers with projects. This year we have 7 first and second features in the lineup. So 1/3 of the lineup is dedicated to newcomers, which is a great number. And as you were saying, I mean, it's interesting to see what they're exploring. I mean, we have a very, very diverse points of view, a lot of also women filmmakers among those debut filmmakers. And so just to mention a few, we have Émilie Carpentier with The Horizon, we have Constance Meyer with Robust, we have Vincent Maël Cardona with Magnetic Beats, and Charline Bourgeois-Taquet with Anaïs in Love. And those films, we deal with history, they deal with love and falling in love, they deal with unlikely friendships, they deal with political activism. So they explore a lot of diverse topics. And for this year, because we had such a big number of newcomers, we decided also to create a new award, which we call the Best Emerging Filmmaker Award. And so we'll have a jury of New York City college students who will watch those 7 features and decide which of them they want to award. And for us, this was really a way, again, to reach out to a younger audience and to get them to discover young French filmmakers and to involve university in New York City in our rendezvous with French cinema. So we have Columbia University, New York University, we have Fordham University, School of Visual Arts, and Brooklyn College and Hunter College participating in this jury and showing us what's relevant for a young New Yorker these days in terms of French cinema. So I'm excited to see what their choice will be at the end of the festival.
Yeah, it's always nice to get the point of view of like new audiences who discover foreign films. Not they may have seen like foreign films or subtitles film, but like they get really immersed in a festival way. So it's more than one. Like you have to watch at least like a third of the lineup and more if you want to. But you get a really good sense of what the festival is about, and then you get also really interesting comments about what they think about our selection, because it's a reflection of on the film, but maybe also about a bit on our work and what we think younger generation would be interested in. When I say we, I'm sorry, Maddie is not really my generation, but I include you in my wisdom.
I see myself as part of the wiser generation. It's something maybe also, Adeline, you could develop, since we were talking about students. It's also the work that the festival does with education. We have educational screening every year that reach out specifically to schools, and the director has a conversation with the students. So that's much younger than university also.
Yes. So yes, we've tried over the years to reach out to more to younger audiences, whether it's through masterclasses that we do at university, where we send the filmmakers who are attending Rendez-Vous to have a discussion with the college students, or whether it's with our educational screenings. So this year we're going to have 2 free school screenings. With the film Horizon by Émilie Carpentier. We picked that film because it deals with climate change, with questions linked to project neighborhoods, with political activism. So we thought this would be a really good fit for middle and high school and college students. It's a difficult year because of the COVID situation. So we don't have as many schools attending our school screenings as usual because of field trips being still prohibited by many schools. But we thought it was important to continue the work, and whoever is going to attend this year will, I'm sure, have a great time discovering this film and having a discussion with the director afterwards.
We've talked a little bit about the number of female directors, that are the high number of female directors. We have 9, but it's also over a third of the lineup. And it's the same every year, and it's not something that we really work hard on doing. And we think it's important, but it's also come naturally because there's a lot more films directed by female directors in France than in a lot of other countries. More opportunities are given, more exposure is given, and so the quality of the film doesn't make a difference with, like, if it's made by a male or female. And it's sometimes a little tedious to having to explain this over and over again. It's like, it's not a quota. It's just, yes, representation and diversity is important, but the level of the work at the end of the day has to be also just good enough, because no one from the audience wants to see a film because it fits in a little box. It's just like, you have to feel completely satisfied with what the movie you're about to see. It's a commitment to go to the cinema and watch a movie, and even if you watch it at home, it's still something like from your busy life. And I have to say that, like, the up and coming female directors are really, really talented, and the work that we've seen was really exciting. Now, I mean, we could have picked more, but there's always, like, issues with distribution and release date, and some dropped. But at some point, we often have more than the lineup directed by women.
And I just wanted to underline the fact that, yes, in France, we have not parity yet with the number of films directed by male directors and female directors, but we have a higher number than in the United States. I mean, 30% of the films that are produced in France are directed by women, and I think in the US it's more like 10%. So there is way for improvement, but it's a situation we can be proud of, I think. And when as you were saying, when we see the diversity and eclecticism of the young female points of view that we get, it gives you trust in the future of cinema.
Yes, I agree. And a few of them also have US distribution, so it shows that yes, there's also a commercial power that's up there, and it's good for that. Do we want to talk a little bit about our favorite, because it's like what everybody wants to know. It's what we like best, and we like everything best. There's no bad choices, but there's always something that resonates with persons more when you watch it, especially when you get to watch it on a big screen. So I thought maybe we could discuss a little bit some of our personal highlights. Even so, everything is stand on its own. There's no bad choices. Maddie, do you want to start with yours?
Sure. I will jump right in with a couple of recommendations of films directed by women, to pick up the previous part of our conversation. Two highlights that I want to flag are, first, Secret Name, directed by Aurélia Georges, which is a period drama starring a young woman named Lina Coudry, who you have seen in other films. She's another sort of returning talent in this year's festival. She was in Gagarine, which we screened last year, 2020. And she's really very, very talented young woman who's at the center of this film as a nurse during World War II who assumes the identity of another woman. And the film is about where that choice takes her. And in some ways, it's a very classically constructed historical drama. But I think there's a real vividness to Lina Coudry's performance that sets it apart. And I highly recommend it. And the other that I want to recommend specifically is Authentique, directed by Audrey Estrugo, which is a film about the French hip hop group Supreme NTM, which is in many ways their stories recalled for me the American film Straight Outta Compton, about the also very foundational American hip hop group NWA. And I think that Authentique is doing something similar while also telling a different kind of story that is very, in some ways it's about a group of friends who also are creative collaborators, and the sort of challenges that they face and the decisions that they have to figure out how to make together, and how they are going to navigate success on the new terms of hip hop music in its early stages. And it's really lively, a very energetic film with a great cast. And I'm excited to see how our audience responds to it, because I think, especially if you're a fan of Straight Outta Compton, you will find something to love in this film.
And if you're a fan of NTM and Joey Starr as well.
That's right. That's right. I personally was not terribly well versed in the history of French hip hop before watching this film, but it did pique my curiosity, and I went and read up on it afterwards. And it's a fascinating history.
Yeah. I think the time period that's depicted is very accurately depicted, having a link through it, and the way it talks about the explosion of youth culture and like suburb culture also in the mainstream media. So it's also culture versus journalism. It's a very good film. Adeline, we would love to hear from you.
So like Maddie said, same for me. I love all the films that we're presenting this year, but I would like to highlight two of them, two films directed by women again. And the first one is A Tale of Love and Desire by Leila Bouti. Leila's first feature, As I Open My Eyes, was selected at Rendez-Vous a few years ago. So this is her second feature. And it's a sensual and sensitive drama about two young people studying literature in Paris. But what's interesting in that film is that these two young people are from two different varieties of the Arab diaspora life in Paris. You have on one side Farah, the young woman. She's a young, outgoing, confident Tunisian immigrant coming to Paris to study. And on the other side, you have Hamed, who is a shy young man born in the outskirts of Paris. And his parents came to France from Algeria a few decades ago. And so he's like, he's raised in this Algerian culture, but he's really a French young man. And those two young people meet and discover, love, sexuality, and the power of literature together. So it's really a beautiful film, and Leila is really a director to follow. I mean, it's only her second feature, but you can tell that she's going to be a director to watch in the coming years. And the second film I'd like to recommend is Robust, which is a debut feature by Constance Meyer. And this film features an unlikely friendship between a young Black female driver and an established actor played by our own Gérard Depardieu. And it's a very moving and sometimes funny tale of discovery between two people that are so different. Their lives are so different, but in some way they find a way to connect and to make each other feel better. And I love that. I loved to see Gérard Depardieu in his own role, in a way, with he's an amazing actor, but with all the flaws that actors have, in their daily lives when they're spoiled and don't really know anymore the difference between reality and set. And that young woman played by a great actress, Deborah Lukumwena, who was also at Rendez-Vous in previous years, and who is giving him that sense of reality again, and also that sense of real friendship that he was longing for, in a way. So a great discovery as well. So those are my two recommendations.
I would like to mention a few films that also I'd like to highlight. I mean, it's hard not to mention Claire Denis, just based on her amazing filmography, but also the fact that this is a movie she made a little bit in a different way, because it's a pandemic films where she was working in another film. She got stuck and she ended up making a film that when you think of a pandemic film, it's going to be a little something, and it's just like not at all. It's an amazing, fully fledged, complete films. Also co-written with Christine Angot, as Maddie mentioned earlier, from Let the Sunshine In, with three amazing cast members whose Claire's worked with before, Juliette Binoche, Vincent Landon, and Grégoire Collin. So you have the entire world of Claire Denis, with soundtrack by Tindersticks, and it's filmed by Eric Gauthier. It's a romantic but really intense romantic ménage à trois. It's really deep, goes deep into the feelings and how it affects the character. It's something that really makes you think about yourself and how can you live with or without love, not just superficially. At the same time, being a Claire Denis film, she managed to put an amazing context to these stories. And I find the sub-stories with the relationship with the son, the mother, the way Paris is filmed or the environment is filmed, also brings a complete picture that goes beyond just the love and the way people interconnect. You feel that there's layers that are on the screen and behind the screen, and it's a movie that really stays in you. So it's always a pleasure to have a movie that's like that, no matter in which context you show it. And to mention maybe, well, there's a lot I wanted to mention, but I will be very reasonable. I'm going to mention maybe another discovery. One film that really struck with me is Magnetic Beats, Les Magnétiques, a first feature. It's a period piece also. It's a recent period piece. So it's 80s. It's a period that I find really interesting to recreate on screen, because obviously I live through it, but also because it's a period that often can go wrong in terms of recreating. Either it's not so much the costume or the way people are, it's also the fact that it's when you discover this type of freedom and how it's going to be represented on screen. It's enhanced by the music. The soundtrack is extremely exciting, and it also goes into the family relationship, how you live through your family and how you can escape your family if you want to, or even if you don't want to. There's love, there's drama, there's a way, it's a sort of coming of age on the older side, not teenagers, but it's a movie that I find really remarkably done. And I'm really curious to see what director Vincent Mel Cardona will do next. So I wanted to mention that film. Obviously, there's a lot of like great directors that are presenting that work. We didn't really talk about Emmanuel Carrère, who's going to be here with Juliette Binoche. We didn't talk about Cédric Lapiche with a film that has just, I think it showed once. It's nearly a world premiere. It's a very, really fun dance movie that shows young people. It's I think it's a great return to form for him, like working with that cast, which include ballerina François Civil also. And Thierry de Peretti has also really exciting thrillers that also star Vincent Lindon, who's going to be here for Fire, as well as Roche Dizem. It's based on a sort of a sadly true story about the way the French state has been handling some affair with drugs. So it's a type of thriller that you could see made by Americans at the same time, because it's also very fast, very exciting to watch, and sadly probably true. So I think we've mentioned a lot of the films, but obviously we'll be there in person. We have a lot of talents coming this year to make up for the fact that they were not able to travel for the last 2 years. Adeline, do you want to mention who's coming?
Yes.
Everyone.
Yeah, a lot of them are coming, but I just want to mention first that we also are very happy to have a special guest this year. Jim Jarmusch has done us the honor of accepting to be our guest of honor. And so he's going to be here for opening night to introduce Claire Denis' film. And he's also going to be here to do a talk with her on March 4th. And he picked a French film as well, a French classic that he will introduce, Touchez pas au Grisby by Jacques Becker, a film from the 50s, a film noir from the 50s. And just to show us his special relationship to French cinema. So we're excited to also highlight the fact that French and American cinema have influenced each other over decades. In terms of talents attending, yes, we have a lot. We have, I think, 17. So it's a great year. We have Claire Denis, Vincent Lindon, and Juliette Binoche, who will be here for opening night. Emmanuel Carrère is coming. Charline Bourgeois-Taquet is coming for Anaïs in Love. Deborah Lukwemena, the actress of Robust, is also attending. We'll have Arnaud Desplechin coming. Mathieu Amalric and Vicky Cripps, his actress for Hold Me Tight, are coming as well. Aurélia Georges for Secret Name is coming. Thierry de Peretti for Undercover. Philippe Béziat for the documentary Gallant Indies. Vincent Maël Cardona for Magnetic Beats. Who else? I'm forgetting people.
I think Antoine Barrault is coming for Madeleine Collins.
Yes,
a
right.
remarkable film. It's a great film.
Yes. Émilie Carpentier also for Horizon.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think Axel Robert, did you say?
Axel Robert for Petite Solange. So yes, it's going to be a great year in terms of talents, attendance, and exciting Q&As for a lot of the screenings we're presenting.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks. That was nice to talk about this year's festival. It's opening soon, so we'll be together in person for real with all the talent. And we hope to have a great audience to be there with us. I think we will. I mean, Rendez-Vous is an exciting time for Film at Lincoln Center.
Oh, Jacques Audiard and Noémie Merlan. Sorry, I forgot.
Oh my God, you forgot Jack and Noémie. I don't want to be yelled by Jack. Okay.
Some, so I will cry after. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in person very soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Adeline.
Thank you. À bientôt.
À bientôt.
Wow, very nice.